Is the new head speed better than the previous generation?
Stay tuned and we'll tell you why we think it is better.
And which one we think is best.
We have the new head speed. We have all three of the kind of tour spec versions, the Pro, the MP and the MPL.
As endorsed by Novak Djokovic, of course, but then we're not going to say he plays with it because obviously you lot will go wild in the comments if we say anything so ridiculous as that.
Somebody would use a racket that they pretend to use.
I know. Charlatans.
So, to test these out, we have done a couple of things. First of all, we've strung them all with the same string.
Lynx Tour, and we've
Tour.
strung it at £50.
Yes. All of these rackets, always we play with them a little bit before we start the rigorous testing process, so they probably drop down to about £48 before we're really nailing that review. It has, of course, got graphene. What would a head racket be without that graphene?
Graphene Touch 360 Plus.
360 Plus, whatever it may be. But the big thing, obviously, in the new speed range is the Auxetic 2.0. Massive fans of Auxetic. This Auxetic has spread down the shaft into the handle.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Yes.
I always felt it was a bit of a waste only having it up here.
Yes.
I went on the old speed,
Absolutely.
but I just want more Auxetic.
I'm looking forward to Auxetic 3.0 where it's everywhere.
Yes, exactly. Why isn't it everywhere now?
2 years' time, it'll be everywhere.
Auxetic 360.
So let's take you through the specs of these rackets. Starting with the MPL.
Oh, thank you, Joe. I have the MPL here. It's 280 grams, 60/90 string pattern, and of course the 100 square inch head size. For those of you into more finer specs, they'll be coming up on the screen whilst we're using them.
The MP is 100 square inch. It is a 16/19 string pattern, and it weighs 300 grams.
And now for the real racket in the range, the Pro, the Head Speed Pro. It is an 18/20 string pattern. It is 310 grams, a real weight.
So that 310 grams different to the old one, right?
It is. It's actually 5 grams lighter than the previous Speed Pro, so you should be able to fling it around a little bit more.
Excellent. Speedy.
Yes.
Can't wait.
Speedy. That's good. Beep, beep.
Thanks. So we've got them all strung up. We're going to head on court and put them through their paces. We do a series of games and points and drills to make sure we kind of cover all the scenarios that you may face.
Yeah, we don't necessarily play in our normal style. We like to try different things, lots of serve volley, drop shots, more spin, less spin, playing flat, just so we make sure we get a really good view of the racket, good feel for the racket.
Yes. So let's take our power grommets, our Auxetic 2.0, and let's get on court. Okay, so we've just come off court playing with the new speed range, the MPL, the MP, and the Pro. Let's start with the MPL.
Oh no, can we just start with the important bit?
What's that?
How nice it feels.
Oh yes, it does feel nice.
I think it looks nice as well. And you two, you don't agree, do you?
No, well, I think it looks okay. I think there's too much chopping and changing. I'd like it just to go black and then white.
Like the previous one.
Yeah. To me, it looks like the old Henman racket, circa 2000-2002, the Slazenger something or other.
The glory years.
Yeah. I think it's just slightly dated, but it does feel...
I'm more into the... honestly, if you get a chance to pop in and feel one, it is probably the nicest textured finish on a racket I've ever seen.
Do you know the downside to that textured finish?
Chips?
No, it's really it's much more difficult to spin it.
The important
it kind of
things,
sticks to your hand.
What are you going to do in between points now?
Exactly, I like to be able to spin it nicely, so that's a big negative on the speed range.
The other thing that they've done, and we are a big fan of consistency here at PH Tennis, and they've kept the little racket with the info in from the Prestige, which I really like. So it's all the info exactly where you know it's going to be. In the head,
very nice.
Balance point in the throw, you know, they've really thought that through. Yeah.
So we've put the racket through its paces, including playing some D-ball, or some people have got other names for it, but the game that Djokovic kind of invented or made famous, we've had a go at that as well to give it its full workout.
Yeah, I think I won, didn't I?
It seems unlikely, especially the way that I edit it. So let's get into it. Let's start with the MPL.
The MPL was the biggest surprise to me, and I actually said earlier that I think if it was slightly heavier, if it was 290 or maybe even 295, it would be brilliant. The extra weight in the head, it almost feels T-fighty in that previous generation that was amazing. And whether the MP should be 305 and this Pro should be 315, if they're all slightly up in weight, whilst maintaining that flex and ability, they'd really be able to play in different ways.
Yeah, I think that the problem for me is that you lose power naturally because of the weight. Like, I think it feels to me like I'm swinging around a junior racket.
You lose power, but you gain speed. So you can gain racket speed. And
but it's got a ceiling of how heavy you can get.
The one thing that I did notice with the much lower weight of the MPL is it was so easy to serve with. Like, just stand there, throw the racket, an absolute piece of cake. Whether that's necessarily a good thing or not, like if you've got a very army serve, if you don't really use your legs, it's not a full motion, you're going to be able to use the heavier racket. But if you like to just stand there and chuck the racket at the ball, MPL is great. But I do agree, you're left wanting just a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, basically all the time.
Yeah, but I think if you were a 14, 15-year-old junior who had good acceleration and good racket speed and could get it moving, but don't have the natural arm strength or muscle mass to be able to handle the 300 gram, it's going to be absolutely brilliant.
But we've got plenty of mass between us, so we probably don't.
Muscle mass, not quite so sure.
No, but mass in general, yes.
Problem is, when you tack on mass, you do sacrifice flexibility.
You do.
Bro, when you tack on mass, you sacrifice flexibility. That's just a straight up fact. That's insane. Touch your toes. What am I, a gymnast?
Onto the MP, the sort of bang in the middle, probably the most popular racket in the range.
I think it is one of the better selling rackets in the UK for sure.
Do you know why that is?
Because it's your racket.
It's endorsed by this guy. The Speed MP, I've used it for about 5-6 years now, at least the last 2 generations, and have nothing negative to say about it, including this one.
Nothing negative to say about it?
Oh, I've got negative things to say about it.
This is handy for all 3 of us here, because if this was just me doing this review, I'd be saying it is perfectly balanced, it's really easy to use, you get loads of spin, enough control, I think it looks great, it plays great, it's easy to serve with, it's got a good feel, feels really nice, absolutely perfect.
When did you get your backhander from?
So I don't necessarily disagree, but for me it just doesn't suit the way that I play. I always felt with the speed range, and the MP is the one that I've played with the most, is that I have to work really hard. I have to throw the racket around a lot more than I'm used to. So with the MP 1619, playing with it today, I find it difficult to control the ball. I find it difficult to be consistent, or being consistent is a terrible phrase. I find it difficult to keep the ball in the court in the way that I want to. Whereas when we get to it and talk about the Pro, that's when I felt that the speed really worked for me.
I think you're almost right.
Thank you. Thank you. So generous.
In that it does have control if you play in a way that allows it to control.
Yes.
So if you have high racket speed, if you have a long swing, then you end up feeling like Ben feels and thinks it's amazing. And I think really it's the difference between attacking and defending. And if you're not necessarily tactically, but in your technique, if you have an attacking technique in that you go for the ball and you try and accelerate the ball all the time, it's great. If you have a slightly more passive technique and you want to use opponents' pace against them, punches, pushes, blocks, it doesn't have the playability, and any kind of off-centre hits on those sort of defensive ones feel not good at all in comparison to something like a boom within the head range.
So, interestingly then, you just need to make sure you don't have any off-centre hits.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Get the ball out the middle of the racket and it feels really good.
It almost plays like a 98.
Yeah, it does.
Despite being 100.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was right, because you said on how you play, and obviously I play in a certain way, so my reflections on my own play and my feeling about the racket was 100% correct. You could argue.
You could also argue that you didn't open up with saying for you were just saying the racket.
I think we'll check the tape, but I think 100% said for me.
We're going to go to the tape.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think the thing with the MP, the thing with rackets in general is bizarrely, based on our personalities, it's kind of we play oppositely, right? So I really, really love a fun racket, and this to me is a fun racket. Whereas it seems that the Pro I know we'll get to that in a moment, but I don't like it because it's a bit too serious. And I feel that you two like it more because it's a bit more serious.
No, I prefer the MP to the Pro.
Yeah?
Yeah, I
I think the Pro's a better racket.
I don't
say this in every video now.
I don't
My catchphrase.
I don't find the speed that fun because it feels like a big departure from the way that I'm used to playing. So I feel like I'm thinking about that more, and then the racket is affecting my game in a way that isn't necessarily beneficial to me. Yeah, I'm in my own head, exactly. But yeah, it is still fantastic, and it is better than the previous version.
What do you think about the Pro?
The Head Speed Pro is my favourite of the three tested today, and I think it's the best racket because I think that it harnesses two things. With the speed, you're encouraged to swing big, to whip the racket around, and I think what you get with the denser string bed and the extra weight is just more control, especially as that weight is shifted down towards the handle. The balance point is slightly different. So I think that for me anyway, when I'm swinging big, because that's how the racket works best, or I'm moving the racket around a lot, should we say, because the racket works best that way, having that extra control works for me because I'm able to control it a little bit more. And I feel like with the MP, I lose control a little bit, whereas this keeps the ball in the court for me.
So now over to Josh for a quick science lesson about swing weight.
So the MPL has a swing weight of 313 grams, which is quite high considering the actual racket weight is 280, and that shows the head heaviness and why, as the racket head comes through, it's really fun, and if you get it going, you can actually generate a lot of pace. The interesting bit comes between the MP and the Pro. Obviously, only 10 grams difference in weight, but in swing weight, just a 3 grams difference. So the Pro is 333, whereas the MP is 330 grams. And that basically is showing the balance point and the weight shifting towards the handle, which is why Joe is feeling like you're getting more control with the Pro.
Because the racket's not scooting away from me.
Because the racket is not the top of the racket isn't kind of pulling you through. It's a more player's frame that requires the player to do the work. You can't just be lazy and throw your hands through it, a la Ben on the end, which is why he likes the MP.
So this is essentially comes to my problem with the Pro, is I wish they made the swing weight 345. Like if they've left the balance the same, that's the problem. It kind of just sucks some of the fun out of it by bringing it back. Like essentially, it's just a denser string bed in a heavier racket. Leave it 16-19, shift the weight back up again, and you'd have a real fun.
Yeah, so I suppose in that sense, it kind of stands out of the range slightly. Yes. It doesn't because of that shift. And I think you often get that with the Pros or the Tours. Yes. Is that they seem like they kind of start being their own thing.
I think instead of comparing the Speed Pro against the Speed MP and Speed MPL, we shall also be comparing the Speed Pro versus the Extreme Pro and the Radical Pro and the Gravity Pro, because those are really...
Video coming soon.
When it came to generating spin and power, they surprised me with how much spin you could create. It was similar to, say, as arguably maybe even more spin than the Extreme.
Wow.
No
way.
Surely not.
No way.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think the power on ground strokes was the most impressive thing, and I think that's a big upgrade on the previous version. Certainly, loads of power out of all three rackets. To be fair, I think more spin and more power in the 16-19 as you'd expect, but still out of the 18-20, I didn't feel like I was losing anything.
No, I think it's interesting, but you two have this take because it was exactly as expected for me.
Was it?
Yeah, and I think these maybe are just slightly more accessible speeds than older versions. Yeah. Because having used them, it was like, I know there's loads of spin and loads of power in this racket. Yeah. That's why I use it. Yeah. So, but the fact that you two are, this is interesting.
Yes.
Maybe it has been improved.
More inclusive.
Yeah, it's a more inclusive tennis racket.
For the serve, obviously the MPL was loads of fun to serve with because it's so light and you can just fling it at it.
Yeah. The MP was also good to serve with.
As was the Pro. I think like the 310 grams is not particularly heavy.
No.
For a high end, for the heavy rackets, it's not particularly heavy. So I think you can still swing this about and still get loads out of it. And obviously, when you've got that mass, if you are getting that racket at speed up, you're getting loads and loads out of it.
I just want to say that if we consider when we do our verses, our 4 categories, I'm trying to think which one this falls down in. I can't really think of one. I think the only thing it falls down in is power, even though we've said it's surprisingly powerful in the sense of when defending with a shorter swing, it doesn't. It's not easy access to power. It's hard access to power, but once you access it, it's great.
Well, I think for volleying, I think that the Pro is great, and I find with all of the heavier, slightly handle heavy rackets, that volleying is better. So I think that for the MPL, for the MP, I'd say probably volleying it's not quite steady enough for my taste. But as soon as you go to the Pro, it is, and it's fantastic.
It's quite nice watching you two talk yourselves into really liking this racket. It's really good.
Yeah,
really good.
It's a really nice racket, and it's definitely worth a try. Obviously, these are our opinions. Try them out. You're going to get different things out of each in the range, but they are fantastic overall.
Who would you recommend each model for?
Oh, so someone with, regardless of model, someone with a big long swing, someone who gets enough racket head speed, drives through the ball. It's going to work brilliantly well.
Yeah, I think the MPL, because it's slightly underweight, slightly underpowered, you'd say probably for a junior player.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Pro for someone who's a bit more serious. MPL if you just want to have a good time. MPs.
Wonder which one you use. So there you have it. The new Speed. Is it better than the old one? Is it worth buying?
Yes, it is better than the old one.
Yeah, definitely.
It's got better feel. It's got more power.
Yeah, power is the one for me.
For sure. It's got so much more power. And the Augmented 2.0 gives it a more sort of solid feeling throughout contact, which is great.
Yeah.
Also, it feels amazing.
Yeah, it's just an all-round better version of the Speed. They have improved it, like they continually do. This is just a really, really nice all-round tennis racket.
Yeah. As always, we need you.
We want you.
Yes. Subscribe to the channel. If you find anything we say helpful, or you just want to shout at us in the comments, leave a comment, subscribe, set up the notifications so you don't miss a thing from PH Tennis.
And if you'd like to buy one of these new Speeds, and you're in the UK, we have it available. You can click right here. Point.
Oh.
You can also subscribe right here.
I'm not doing that.
All right, see you guys on court.